Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
Before we dive into our guest today, Joe's going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Am I now? Our show, this is easy. Our show's purpose is really simple. It's all about creating a space for people that want to serve by telling great stories of people who have served, organizations that you can serve with. You know, we kind of have the philosophy on this show that it doesn't matter where you serve as long as you're serving. However, we do think that Rotary is pretty snazzy and does accommodate most of those things that we are all looking for.
Wonderful. And Chad?
I want to thank our sponsor, Russell Hampton Companies. They are the #1 printer of Rotary licensed gear in the world. They can help you print anything. If you're watching online, you can see some of the swag. They can help from name badges to shirts, you name it. And they can also help you with printing if you're not looking for Rotary gear. So check them out at russellhampton.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We enjoy our sponsor and all of their support. So obviously want to acknowledge them. We are going to welcome Ward Budweg, fellow Rotarian, and allow our listeners an opportunity to get to know him a little bit better. Welcome, Ward.
Well, welcome to you. Thank you.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. Now, we always love the opportunity for our listeners to get a deeper dive into who our guests are. And so can you share with us where you hail from?
Well, I live in Decorah, Iowa right now. And I grew up in New Hampton, Iowa, about 35 miles away. So Northeast Iowa, we're 15 minutes from the Minnesota border and 35 miles from Mississippi River. So way up in the corner.
Very familiar with the Decorah area. I was in track and field and went to Drake Relays at one point in my track career. So that was fun to enjoy. That's in Decorah, Iowa, isn't it? Or am I mistaken?
That's in Des Moines.
Oh, whoops.
Close. Yeah. Only about 2 hours away, whatever.
But I did go to Decorah, Iowa. So I'm mistaken. Sorry, Des Moines and Decorah for mixing the two up.
You went for it. I'll give you points on that.
I did. It's all good. My geography is just a little backwards.
We're actually closer to Minneapolis than we are to Des Moines. It's 200 miles to Des Moines, and to the airport in Minneapolis, we're 140. So,
interesting fact.
And you needed that airport for what we'll get into.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so we always ask you, you're a Rotarian?
Yes, I've been a Rotarian since 1984. Currently presiding as the president, my second term as president for the club. Very active in the club activities and also the district level. I'm on the RILA board, on the foundation board, and I'm going to be district governor in 25-26.
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
So
You're doing it.
I'm hopefully I'm doing it. I hope I don't get voted off the boat or off the island, but we'll see.
Well, congratulations on that upcoming role for yourself. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, thank you.
What did you do? What do you do for work, or did you do in your career?
Well,
years.
Presently I serve as a handyman, a glorified handyman. So if your gutters need to be cleaned today, when we're done here, I've got to go clean a couple gutters. I'm putting the deck together this morning, and I have some trim to paint later this afternoon. So my days are full as a handyman. But that's
an easy one. That's an easy one to stay busy.
Yeah. I tell people I quit going to church because too many of the ladies in church kept grabbing me after church to have them come and put them or a cabinet door or something like that. And in the Rotary Club, over 80% of the members I've helped out with some little project around their house. So People ask me, I don't need to advertise. I just go up and do the work, and then my name gets out there.
Yeah.
Obviously doing a wonderful job, because if you're staying that busy.
Well, and if you're not, just go to church. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I still go to church, but
You now can complete the cycle there, right?
Yes,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, if things aren't as busy, then I'll peek back into church. I'm kidding.
yeah.
Well, Ward, we're bringing you on because we want to hear about and talk about you rode a bike around the world.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
fascinating.
so we got to dive in it.
Let's unpack that a little bit.
So my first question is, what motivated you, or how did how did it even start to think about that idea?
Well, I'll try to explain it. My wife Jackie, before we married, she made me sign a prenuptial agreement. The first element was I had to become a Green Bay Packer fan, and I still struggle with that. I still struggle with that one because I'm a Chicago Bears fan. And the second element was I would agree to ride my bicycle around the world with her. So it was her idea to ride our bikes around the world, and so that's it took 3 years. We took 3 years of our life. We sold everything. All we had left was basically a pickup load of family heirlooms. So just sold everything and took off on our bicycles to go and explore the world, and just a wonderful adventure out there, going 10 miles an hour. And we and I should grab that real quick. Do people see this? Do people see us? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay, Ward.
That's quite the prenup.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
What
Well,
would you have said, Joe? Kelly said you.
As long as there were a few zeros on there, I'd be fine.
Yeah. But with our process, Jackie journaled the whole adventure, and we came up with a book here, The World at 10 Miles an Hour. So we're, but as you asked, what prompted it? I guess my fourth grade geography book kind of prompted me to look at the world and explore it, because my dad was in World War II, 4 uncles, all in the military. So we'd receive postcards from Argentina, from Vietnam, and I just go, I'd look in my geography book and say, maybe someday I could go there, and maybe someday I could see that. And I kind of wish I had that fourth grade geography book, because I'd go check. So that was part of it. Jackie's encouragement of the prenuptial, it didn't take a lot for me to sign that part of it.
So it was essentially her vision. And where did that come to fruition for her?
Well, Jackie, I met Jackie on a bicycle ride across Wisconsin, and
Of course you did.
yeah, well, where else would you meet? And then when her and her friend, they rode down the West Coast on the Pacific Highway, and they carried all their luggage with them. And she said it's such a freeing element to know that everything you have is on your bike. That you go where you want, you stop when you want. You're going, like I said in the book, you're going 10 miles an hour, and you go, wow, we smell everything, we hear everything, we can, you're engaged in the world. And she goes, I just love that. And so her vision was to, let's bike around the world. And at the time, I owned Decora bicycles. So I was, well versed in what bikes we should use and the mechanical ends of logistics. If the bikes break down, I carried enough tools I could rebuild the bikes completely, which when you're carrying all your stuff, you don't want to carry all the extra tools. But I was prepared, and it actually came quite handy, me carrying the tools. And as we talk about service, I'd actually help fix other bicycles in other countries as I went along, which was just fun. If somebody
That's
broke down, I'd help them fix their tire. If something happened to somebody, and so that was just a real wonderful thing.
It's so interesting. Where did you guys start?
Well, we started in Europe, and we did 23 countries in Europe. We started in Germany because I have an aunt and uncle that lived in the Aschaffenburg area of Germany, and then went north through Denmark into Norway, Sweden, over to Estonia, and down through the Baltic countries, and back into the Czech Republic and Slovakia, over to France, and so like 23 countries in Europe. That was June of 2007 till December of 2007. And we came home during that time for Christmas. Our oldest son, who was in the Marine Corps, was home on leave and was getting married. So we came home for his wedding. And then from there, we went to Central America and did some service work in Panama, and then also in Costa Rica. And then from there, we flew all the way to southern Argentina, to Ushuaia, Argentina, and then took 8 months in South America.
Wow.
Just going every way we could, and just visiting and learning. And then from South America, from Bogota, Colombia, we went to Auckland, New Zealand. And then from New Zealand, Australia. And between those two, it was 45 days 45 days in Australia and 60 days in New Zealand. And then up into Thailand, and Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, China, Mongolia, and South Korea. And then June of 2009, we flew to Anchorage, Alaska. And we didn't get to the Arctic Circle in Norway or Sweden. So I said, Jackie, I want to ride my bike to the Arctic Circle. So from Anchorage, we rode up to the Arctic Circle, and then we rode the Alaskan Highway all the way down to Vancouver. And then we, in 2009, we touched the four corners of the continental U.S. So that was our 1,106-day adventure.
Wow.
That is so, it's so fascinating. And I mean, there's a lot of planning that has to go into mapping that out. So can you talk to
He's probably like, nah, not really. We just rode.
Well, I mean,
how long did you agree?
But you've got to have some sort of planning and prepping that is implemented, right? Or am I thinking too much about it?
Well, for those that need to know where they're going to wake up every night, yes.
Yeah.
We knew where we woke up in the morning, but we didn't know where the day was going to end.
Okay.
And so that therein, that's the little nuance to it, is we all know where we're going to go to sleep, or well, we know where we wake up, but we don't always know where we're going to sleep that night. And you drive in your car, you go, I know I can make Fargo. I know I can get to Minneapolis. But on the bicycle, what if you break down? What if there's a headwind? What if you get invited to stay someplace that's really cool and interesting? When your goal is to see the world and learn the world, that's what you do. You don't walk away from those opportunities to learn from the culture. And it's not necessarily a tourist culture. And that's, and we had 3 rules. The first one, it had to be safe, not cold, and not wet. And everyone was, what does safety mean? I said, well, I don't want people shooting at me or robbing me. And I don't want wild animals to kill me. And then not cold, our rule was, if it gets below 40 degrees, we need to go to a warmer climate. We didn't follow that rule very well. And then we didn't want to be
Arctic Circle is like the clearest indication of that.
Yeah. And then our third rule of not wet, we didn't want to ride in the monsoons. So if you look at the map, we're above the equator, below the equator, we sometimes it looked as though we were going to just take kind of heading in one direction, then we take a hard right, and because we can see that there's turmoil or unrest in a capital city or a country. And just one example, we were supposed to leave Australia from Melbourne and fly into Bangkok. Well, our flight was delayed, no flights in and out. This was in 2009. Well, the red shirts of Thailand had taken over the airport, and the yellow shirts were complaining about the red shirts. And it was all over the news. And so our flight was delayed for 2 or 3 days. So we just had to stay in Melbourne, Australia at a campground until we could fly out. So as you said, the planning was, again, by those 3 rules, we had to plan our visas.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go on a 3-year trip, you can't plan a visa that far out.
Yeah.
When we were going to go to China, we got our visas for China in Australia. So you have to go to the embassy there, and it'll take 2 weeks. So you have to wait in Australia for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just leave your passport and $700 to get the visa. And then for 2 weeks, we just explored, did a big loop out of Sydney to come back. So that's a little bit of the logistics which we didn't know as we were going to fly into Brazil from Central America. When we left on the trip, no visas were required for Brazil. But as January 1st of 2008, Americans needed a visa. So we're going to get on the plane. They go, you have no visa to get into Brazil. So we have to go to we looked a few days earlier. And so we had to run to the Brazilian consulate in Panama City and get a visa. It was it was just interesting. And as we were leaving China to go into Mongolia, and we took a train through the Gobi Desert. And as we're getting there, everybody goes, you got your visa, you have your visa. And we looked online. Well, because America gave Mongolia $28 million, Americans don't need a visa to go to Mongolia. Everyone else did. And we were nervous, and we go like, oh, okay. So,
oh my gosh.
So when we say planning, yes, we planned what we were going to take. We planned how many days we'd ride before arrest. We planned how we would get our money. We planned our both sons were in the Marine Corps. We also planned if they had any pre-deployment leaves that we would come home to see them before their pre-deployment. So those were the only plans we had. The one thing we didn't plan very well was, and I'll just tell people, make sure your credit card doesn't expire while you're gone.
Oh no.
Because we had no address to send it to. They go, well, and you needed a phone number, and you just make sure your credit card doesn't expire when you're gone.
Yeah. So in that circumstance, what came of that, Ward?
We were able to use our ATM, but we'd have people wire us money.
Okay.
So you were sending emails to people. I'm in Kenya. I need wire.
Yes, we were one of those. We were the ones that were doing that. But what we also found, and this happened in Laos, where we had money in the bank, but the ATMs went down in Laos because of a telephone line, and there the plan was we'd only take enough money to get from one major city to the other. In Laos, there's only a few cities that have ATMs. And so we had enough money to get to Luang Prabang. And so we're there, and the ATM goes down. And we go, uh-oh. So we downgrade from an $8 a night hotel room to a $4 a night hotel room. And and then we started, because we didn't have any money, and we started to eat for less than $1 a day, which we were hungry. But I can imagine how people who from Laos don't have money and they're eating for less than $1 a day as well. We were
Yeah.
prepared at that point to leave our passports as collateral for food and lodging.
Oh my
But
gosh.
so
Talk-
that's the plans.
Ward, talk a little bit about, because I got to imagine you encountered a lot of really great people, a lot of great circumstances. Maybe talk about kind of how you guys approached each day, because it sounds like you were looking for experiences and you were looking for
Yeah.
to experience the culture, or just experience life on a day-to-day basis. So kind of walk us through that, because I'm assuming that some days you had more interaction with people than other days. And, did you end up staying for like a week in places because you really enjoyed the people? Like, just kind of walk us through how you guys, first of all, made the decision to do that, and then what you were like actually seeking.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack in that question.
What's that?
So it was a lot to unpack in one question.
Oh, yes. With our goal to learn the culture, we made a kind of a secondary rule, and you add more rules as you go along. But if somebody asked 3 times, you accepted the hospitality. Here in America, we say, hey, come stay with me, come stay with me. They really don't mean it. We don't want anybody to come stay with us. But in a foreign country, if they say, come stay with you, they mean it. They're very sincere to that. So we would, if somebody asked 3 times, we go, well, they've asked 3 times. They're sincere to what they're offering us. We would, I grew up as a farmer, so my interest was agriculture, and Jackie's a dietitian, and she's interested in the food. And so if somebody would say, teach us how to cook, or if I could go through and look at a farm or look at some machinery or something like that, I would just take that in as just a great opportunity to learn. And as a Rotarian, I was a leader of a group study exchange to Mexico. So I'm interested in any aspect of culture, of education, just anything we can, just to say, I just want to learn. And I can say that I'm not prejudiced, because I know, I can say, well, our system is good. Theirs maybe could use some improvement, but I'm not going to judge and say, hey, theirs is terrible and bad, because, who are we to say anything? We're fortunate. And in that, I just feel very blessed that, that during the course of the day, you'd meet somebody and they say, come to our house for dinner. And if we didn't have a real plan for that evening, we would join. And it was amazing. I'm going to share a story. We were leaving, we were in Italy, and we're leaving Verona, Italy, and we're
I love Verona.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
and we're heading towards France, and we just went across the northern part of Italy, from Venice and over. But as we were going, we had to go through a tunnel, and bicycles aren't loud. There's exhaust and dirty and noisy, and even with your lights, it's quite unsafe. So this gentleman, Johnny, comes up, and he's on his light road bike, and he could understand a little English. And I said, how do we get around the mountain? And so he took away from his ride on his very light road bike, and us, with my bike weighed 130 pounds and Jackie's weighed 70, loaded with all our gear. He went slow enough and showed us how to get across the mountain. And as we got across the mountain, then he said, well, we should have a wine, because it was 10:30 in the morning. So we sit down and we have a wine. And then the mailman shows up, Tomasi, and he's a cyclist, and he looks at us and he asks Johnny, he goes, well, who are these people? What's going on? And Johnny explains to him that we're, touring, and and Tomasi goes, "Are you hungry?" And we go, "No." It was again 10:30 in the morning, and they said, "No, we're not hungry." And so, but he asked a couple times, and, and then we're heading towards the coast, and we hear, and he's on a scooter and he's delivering the mail, and we hear the scooter come up right next to us, and he goes, "Are you hungry?" So it was the third time he asked. We go, "Yeah, we're hungry." So he calls his wife on the phone, and we make a left hand or right hand turn through a vineyard, and we end up at his house for lunch. Because Johnny, who gave us a ride and said, "Hey, you need to stop and have a wine because that's what Italians do," and we meet the mailman, and it was just so funny how you're invited in because he could tell we weren't a threat. It was amazing.
What was the like how did you break through the barrier of language? Or were you just encountered by individuals that could speak, some English?
I speak Spanish. Jackie speaks Spanglish.
Okay.
And so that's our linguistic skills. We found that a smile goes a long ways. Charades, we use charades quite a bit.
Okay.
We also found that we carried a picture book, a picture of our home, our kids, our family, our town, our school, and we shared that. And generally that would bring out another person's picture book, and it was just so fascinating. They go that the picture was worth that 1,000 words, and
Yes.
just a smile went. It's unbelievable. Just with a smile, they could tell you were sincere, and in that, I'll share a story. We're I want to say we were in Estonia, and there is free camping. You can go in the woods and camp. And Jackie said, "Well, I really don't feel comfortable camping in the woods. I just hear the sounds and I stay awake all night." Said, "Why don't we just see if we can camp in somebody's yard?" And so we heard this couple. They were behind their fenced area, and we heard them. And so Jackie, we go in, and she does some charades, and she points to her ring and points to my ring that we're a couple married. And then she puts her hands like on her head to say I'm sleeping, and she goes tent to the yard and shows a spot in the yard where we could set our tent up, and the lady goes, yeah, and so as we're getting set up, she comes over and she says in Estonian, whatever, "Would you like a shower?" Douche. And their showers are separate from the house, and sauna. And so, yeah, we said that'd be nice, and sauna, and and it's all wood fired. And I put myself through college cutting firewood, so I see all this wood that needs to be split and stacked. And so Jackie does the signs of me chopping wood and stacking it and putting a smile on my face, and the lady's going, yeah. She's just agreeing with us just by these charades. So she goes in the house and runs out and hands Jackie the phone. And so on the other side the other end of the phone is a lady that's speaks English, and says, "Well, she's glad you're staying in the yard, but what's the problem?" And Jackie said, "No problem. We're just very thankful, and Ward wants to chop wood." And then I added her in. I said, "Well, I could mow the lawn as well." And so the lady talks back to her, and this all in a different language, and talks back to her, and then gives the phone back to Jackie, and the lady says, "Well, how long do you plan on staying there?" So,
Oh my gosh.
So
it's like, well, maybe you could stay a couple extra days. I wouldn't mind the extra help,
right,
extra set of hands.
But we had a travel card. It had our name and our website, and Jackie handed that to her. And so during the night, she had looked on the internet to just verify who we were, and she could see we were from America. And so she comes out in the morning yelling, "Coffee, coffee." So invited in for coffee. And she has a Michigan shirt on. So,
Oh.
so uh, the language wasn't that much of a problem. Well, I mean, in Germany, we came upon this couple that were, I think, a man and his mistress, and they had a little fight, and the mistress, they had left and they came back. The mistress came back and she was crying and she was asking different things, and I go, yeah, 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 and then we're about ready to go to bed, and she crawls in the tent with us.
Oh.
Supposedly, I gave her permission to join us that evening to sleep with us.
Oh.
Jackie, Jackie just says, "Well, don't say. You have to be careful what you're saying," because I didn't understand the German. So,
Yeah.
so we
Oh,
got caught sometimes.
word. Well, it's bound to happen, right? Especially you did this for you trekked around the world on your bikes for about 3 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, 1,106 days.
Yeah, it's bound to happen. It's not going to
Yeah.
all be rainbows and butterflies.
Was there a country or culture that surprised you the most in terms of like good, bad, or indifferent? Doesn't matter. Just like wow, that was not what I anticipated that was going to be like.
Cambodia.
Cambodia.
Just we said to each other, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" When you have 5 people on a small scooter, when you have a small Toyota van as the public transport, and you see as many people on top of the van as in the van, that was just mind blowing. Like, wow, there's more people on the top. And but yeah, Cambodia was probably ranked at the top for the most surprising cultural things. In Cambodia, the electricity was all battery. They had battery charging stations, and there would be one light bulb in a house, and they'd just be off of battery. That was just amazing. And we went to the capital city of Phnom Penh, and there was electricity, but you know 10 miles out of town, it was so it was just amazing how many people could get on a scooter, and how many people would be on top of the Toyota van, and that the one day we saw the lady holding the baby, and she's on the scooter. The man is driving, but she has a stick holding the IV bag for the baby. You know, I mean, when's the last time you saw somebody hold IV bag holding their baby, and you know the IVs?
Yeah.
Very amazing.
Yeah. That's they're doing whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you
And they're
stop
happy.
it? Go ahead. They're happy.
They're happy. They're happy people.
Did you run into many Rotary clubs when you were traveling, or is there other Rotarians?
Yes. Well, that was one of the goals of mine, was to visit Rotary clubs wherever I could. In Panama, because of my Spanish, I was able to go to Panama City Rotary Club, and I actually presented there. And they understood me, which was amazing. Throughout Argentina and Chile, I would just wherever I could go to a Rotary meeting, and it was hard to predict when you might be able to attend, because you'd see that the meeting would be on a Thursday and you're 150 miles away. Will you be there by Thursday? You know, we try to use the internet to plan ahead that way. So yes, I want to say I've been to Rotary meetings over 30 countries.
Wow.
So feel very fortunate to that. We did do, well, one of the stories I have that really puts kind of the wow in Rotary, as we were in 92, Wilson and a group study exchange team from Brazil had come to Decorah for a week and stayed in my home and with my family. And so since 92, just visiting, sending cards back and forth and correspondence. And so on our flight from Central America to South America in the airplane, the center part of the airplane magazine, there's a map, telling the routes that the airline flies. And so I pull that map out, rip it out, and I write one name on the map, and it was in the center part of Brazil. And I said, Jackie, I don't care what we do in South America, but we're going to go visit Wilson in central Brazil in the Pantanal. And so as we went to Ushuaia and start working our way north and we get towards Brazil, start sending some emails to Wilson saying, well, we're going to be there close to July 4th and that. And so just like anytime you have visitors come, you send more emails more frequently. And so we're about a day's ride outside of Tanguera de Sierra. And so we're going to check the internet one last time. We're maybe 20 miles away from the city. Just make sure that Wilson's home, our address is correct, phone number is good. And we're going to check the internet. And as we're approaching the internet, this car just cuts right in front of Jackie and just almost takes her out. And Jackie's going, these Brazilian drivers are insane. They're crazy. It says, it almost hit me. And then we look up, and in the back of the window, it said, welcome, Ward and Jackie. Wilson had come out on the route to find us.
Oh my gosh.
He knew where we were coming from. And so he had come out on the route to find us. And, he calculated and he brought an interpreter because his English is marginal. But, to engage us, and it was so wonderful. You're like, we're almost there. We're only 20 miles away. And he goes, well, how long will it take you? Well, 20 miles on the bike, 2 hours. And but Brazil's hot. And he didn't tell us there was this mountain that we had to climb for a half hour in 95-degree heat. And it was with our bikes, again, weighing 130 and 170 pounds. That's just a lot of weight. So we're, sweat's coming off our elbows. And we get to the top, we see a little rest stand. So we have a Coca-Cola. And so we're heading down the road towards this city. Well, here's a camera crew he sent out, the TV station, to video us of us riding our bikes into his town. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I don't speak Portuguese, and that's all they could speak. But, they took pictures and we smiled and that. And this is the part that is totally amazing, is we're about an hour late and it's 95 degrees. He had his entire Rotary Club at the entrance to his city, standing there in the heat for an hour to welcome us in. And they had a banner that said, welcome, Ward and Jackie to Tanguera de Sierra. And I thought, would we do that? Would we, as service, would we do that? That there was just, you can't beat that. I mean, you can, but it was just, it was amazing to have all the Rotarians, the whole club. And then there were 2 clubs in his town, and we went to those Rotary meetings. And we did a service project in Rwanda, Africa, and the Rotarian who was leading that, we went to that Rotary meeting and presented. In Shanghai, went to the Rotary Club there. In South Korea, in there, the Rotary clubs have their own their own house. And so I went there in the afternoon to see what time the meeting was. And they said, well, it's at 7. So I went back at 7. I had to sit with the president of the club, who didn't speak English, but we had an interpreter. I had to sit right next to him as a special guest. And so every beer he had, I had to keep up. And every sake he had, I had to keep up.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't that fun. It was fun, but
Next day.
It was fun until it wasn't fun.
yeah, it was. Yeah. But the club just embraced me, and they had gone out because they knew I was coming. They had gone out and bought gifts for Jackie.
Mm.
And so I go back to our hotel. We didn't camp that night. Go back to the hotel, and I said, "This Rotary Club gave you all these gifts." Just it was and again unbelievable. But I was a special guest of the president, and all I say to our clubs is we need to turn up a notch.
Yeah.
Or
You
at
came
least
back
what
and
else?
you're like, so when you were on this trip, did you just put your membership on ice, or how did that work for you? I know that it's kind of a silly question, but I'm so
No,
curious.
our secretary kept my membership up for that time.
Cool.
So I'm not sure how he did it, for dues and that, but
Well, I think you can do like honorary membership too. I'm sure that maybe they flipped you to that.
Yeah.
I've got a really obscure question.
Yeah.
You're talking about the weight of the bikes, and you were talking about these mountains or these hills. How quickly did you guys go through brakes? I'm thinking about you slam through brakes when you're just on a bike, normal, like 170-pound bike, or how much was it?
Your weight and the weight of whatever else it is you're carrying.
Yeah.
So talk about some of the logistics of the reality of the bike.
Okay. With me on the bike, it was right at 300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bike and myself, about 300 pounds. With Jackie, it would have been about
careful.
100, her and the bike would have been about 190.
Okay.
We went through 24 tires during our 33,500 miles. My bike wore out more tires quicker just because of more weight.
Mm-hmm.
With Jackie's, and we kept track of how many flats. We actually had 100 flats because we'd recorded how many flats we had. And we made a little joke. We worked as a team because I would take the tire off, the wheel off, and I'd pull the tire and find what caused the flat. And then Jackie would prep the tube and then put the patch on it. So we worked as a team for that. But we'd never put more than 4 patches on, because we'd have, with logistics, the patch would start to leak, if you have too many. And we date what day this one got patched. With her wheel, it got 10,000 miles on her front tire before she had a flat tire with the front.
Wow.
So and brakes, we did carry extra brake pads with us. And so, it didn't seem like we went through so many brake pads, but we are crossing from Chile to Argentina, and it was about a 4-hour climb over the Andes, and we get to the top, and this was pretty neat. There was a rotary sign at the top of this mountain saying the elevation, the GPS coordinates.
Wow.
But it had been raining, so it was the road was wet, and but we're warm because we're climbing this mountain, and we come down the other side, and it's raining now, but it's it's 45 degrees, so we're getting very cold, and I put on the brakes, and I hadn't noticed, but very quickly, because of the rain and the sand and that, my brakes went metal to metal. So I'm going down the other side of the mountain for a half hour, just praying that I can navigate the corners and
Oh my.
there's no brake pads.
No, thank you.
In this part of the world, there aren't any guardrails either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're over the edge. You're over the edge.
I can legit feel my heart rate increasing just thinking about it.
Yeah, it was
like, hey, be on the bike.
Yeah, I know.
It was pretty scary. We got to the bottom, and Jackie was wearing a blue pullover top, and we were so cold that her lips matched the color of the top.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
It was we were cold, and we were at the border crossing to get everything checked. Well, there are no hotels because we were ready to get out of our wet
Get a warm
gear
shower.
and get to
Yeah.
a hotel. And so that was a very cold day. But one of the things that, and we, with the cracked rims and that, and this, hope people can understand my philosophy here, but because my rear rim cracked more frequently because of just the weight and just the pounding of the roads, and the roads were bad. So we were, we were in Asia, and my rims had cracked. The rear rim had cracked quite a bit. And because Jackie had the least amount of weight on her front rim, I took my rear rim and unlaced it, and I took her front rim and put it on my rear. So I'd have a good rim on the rear, but now she has a cracked rim on the front. She
Yeah.
didn't think that was so good. She thought that was kind of mean. And I don't know, maybe just because I increased her life insurance policy during the same time.
I love it.
None of these things have anything to do with each other.
Yeah, none.
Yeah.
None whatsoever.
But once we got, and what I did was I would mark on the rim very finely with a marker how far the cracks were. And the cracks didn't increase at all. But when we got to Anchorage, Alaska, and we could get a new rim, I bought a new rim and put on a new rim for her.
Good
There you
call.
go. Redeemed.
Yeah,
Good,
I was.
good business decision there.
Well,
So-
Ward, we're at our time. Can you
Yeah.
believe how quickly this went? I
Oh,
feel like we could sit here and talk for
So
hours.
many questions.
I mean, it's quite incredible. It's such a feat to go through that. So we wanna thank you
well, thank
for
you.
carving out time to talk more in depth about it.
Ward, where can people get the book that you guys put together for this?
Well, they can contact us if they want a signed copy.
Okay.
They can send me an email, which is my last name spelled backwards, GEWDUB @yahoo.com.
Awesome.
And or they can send me a text at
Wonderful.
And we'll put all your information on
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll put
into
the
the show
website
notes.
and email
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
notes. So anybody listening, check it out.
but if they want a signed copy, otherwise we have them on Amazon.
All right.
Our local bookstore in Decorah has the books and that, but we say the books are free, but the signatures are $20.
All right. I love it. Ward, thank you again. It really was an honor to hear all about you and Jackie's trip around the world on your bikes. So
Well,
thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be right back. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.